What memory do you cherish the most?
Shoot. The memory I cherish the most, that's a great question because that kind of caught me flat-footed. I'll tell you a memory I'm not sure if cherished the most, but it's probably one I remember the most is, and I think you and I were talking recently on Kel's shows, Culture Marauders, about my sister passing away around Thanksgiving. And the one thing I remember particularly, and I think even more of it now, she took me from my first concert, etc. But when it was kind of loyalty, I was playing frozen catchers in the backyard, which is where you try to run up and touch people and you freeze them. Yeah. And my porch was base. And I ran to my porch, and I can still remember this. I couldn't have been more than 6, but I ran face first into the porch and nearly put my eye out. And I was bleeding profusely. And it was one of those neighborhoods where there were kids everywhere. So we had like 10 kids, 12 kids playing frozen catchers. And literally within like 2 seconds, it was like somebody turned on the light in a roach house because all the roaches just scattered. The only person that stayed there, however, was my sister, of course. And she made sure, of course, she was freaking out, but she was trying not to freak out. So she was able to get my dad. And it was a crazy memory. I know that's probably as cherished. I wouldn't have said that 3 or 4 months ago. But since my sister passed away, I think about a lot how good of a person she was in a lot of areas. She had her demons. She had her faults like we all do. But yeah, by and large, she didn't always do well, but she meant well. And that was an instance where she kind of just looking out for me and being what a big sister is. So I think of that. I've been thinking about that a bit lately.
So in all, that's great that you go from like, well, this is just a memory to like the person passing, and the relationship you have with your sister must have been great, because if you were able to cherish like how much she's been there for you, that's great. But I have a question as to the game. You call it frozen catchers?
Yes. Not
like freeze tag?
We called it frozen catchers. It's freeze tag, I guess. But we grew up, of course, in we grew up in the South, and we had some funny names for things out in the South. But no,
so what was tag?
Tag was just what tag was just you tag somebody in the red. And then
so what did you call that? It's like, hey, let's go play.
Yeah, we didn't play tag. We played frozen catchers. Tag was the reason I didn't play tag is I was a fat, slow kid. And with frozen catchers, I stood a chance. I don't know why. I guess because even if I got frozen, somebody could unfreeze me. And then I could still get back to base. I don't know. So yeah, but we generally, frozen catchers was our jam.
That's interesting. Frozen catch. I've never heard it called frozen catchers.
Okay. I guess it's freeze tag. Technically, I don't know.
Because it sounds just like freeze tag. Yeah, it sounds just like, but same game, different. It's interesting as kids that we play like the same games and have different names for it, and depending on the areas that we grew up in.
Right.
But that's really cool. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Take a Six Podcast. I am your host, Leah. Today, we have the privilege of being joined by Mike from Wack Brackets. Hi.
Hello, Leah. How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you. This is going to be a lot of fun. I was fortunate enough to meet you a couple months ago when we were on Kel's show together, Culture Marauders, and I think it was this year-end wrap-up show, and he invited us both on, and I hadn't had the pleasure of meeting you before, and it was really good to get to know you, and I appreciate you reaching out and allowing me to be a guest on the Take Up Space podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the end of the year show was a good show. I was surprised that he reached out and wanted me on it. I was like, oh, of course, yes, absolutely. I would love to do it. And so it was really cool to meet you. Can you tell us a little bit about Wack Brackets, your podcast?
Sure, it's a goofy podcast. I think you and I have mentioned, at least in our back and forth, is that there's a lot of serious stuff that's going on in the world right now. So what I try to do is I try to give people a reprieve and do something a little bit not serious, and just give them a chance to kind of unscrew their head for a few minutes and laugh, hopefully, or at least get you thinking about things, because I take different kind of topics and I will bracket them off against each other, but I always have a guest on, and we change the questions every round. So the questions are going to change, and usually the questions are kind of stupid. I think one of the very first episodes I was asking just randomly, Jake from State Farm versus Forrest Gump, who's more likely to still use a flip phone? And so you just come up with stupid questions and get people to have a stupid argument and try to debate both sides of a stupid topic. It's not meant to be serious, just kind of a goofy, fun podcast. But I've been lucky to meet a lot of people doing it. It's been a lot of fun. So I just keep doing it until somebody tells me to stop.
No, I think that your podcast is just a great relief. I don't have to be serious about politics or rights or this or religion or whatever it is. I can just listen to it, have some laughs, and be about my day. It's a cool episode.
Well, I appreciate it because it's I don't get tons of listeners, but I get a few, and it's always fun to talk to people when somebody reaches out and says that, particularly when they'll disagree with me on something. They'll be like, I love your podcast, but I totally disagree with you on this. You can tell the love your podcast thing is whether they like it or not. They have to they lead in with the kind of, hey, I like this, but you're stupid. So yeah, it's kind of soften the blow that some of my arguments are pretty awful, but it gives me something to do.
Yeah, I welcome the attack of arguments. Like, oh, I don't really like the argument that you made here because you didn't think about this. And it's like, well, why don't you come on the show? Let's talk about it. You know?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Let's just have a conversation. Let's just get to talk about something other than just being serious about everything all the time. Well, today, I am really interested in hearing your story. Because this is your first guest spot that you've done since you've officially retired.
I wouldn't call it retired, but it's since I've quit my job with the man, we will say.
You have gone from stability to the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what you did previously, like what industry you worked in and what led you to take that step.
Well, I've worked in several industries over the years. I started out in the insurance industry and then kind of morphed into the financial industry. And lately I've been working in the healthcare industry. Previously, I started out I was studying to be an actuary, which is a risk mathematician early on. I realized quickly I'm not that smart. And fortunately, I did have some skill in coding computers, which is something I've been doing as a hobby since I was roughly 12. So I ended up tending to get jobs in that area, particularly as unsexy as the sounds, managing large databases for companies and writing databases, etc. So kind of a big data nerd, so to speak.
And that's not the industry you were working in previously. That's just something you were doing on the side.
Oh, no, that's the industries I've been working in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've kind of, and this is the funny thing is that really the trick is that what I do now is I have an online game and it's been online for about 20 years and I'm going to really focus on that. But it does a lot of the similar things because I was talking to this just to a friend last night. And he was talking about he needs to quit gaming so much and focus more on something that can make him a passion that can make him money. And I'm fortunate enough that I don't like gaming. I don't have a lot of hobbies outside of writing games. I don't play games, but I like to write them. And to me, it's more fun when you have large scale games, etc. So I've learned to do a lot of database work and things based on that. So a lot of the work I've been able to learn in my free time and take that and apply it when I've had to a real job and make money. So I kind of always do the same thing, but I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I'm good at it, I guess, better than most, I suppose, because I've focused on it so long. It's not that I'm good. I just have so much experience. And I just enjoy it. So yeah, I'm going into doing something with a game that is similar to what I've been doing pretty much for the last 15 years for companies.
Oh, okay. So when you decided I'm quitting and I'm going to focus on what my passion is, mm-hmm. what kind of flipped the switch for you from like, well, I don't want this to be a side hobby anymore. Like I want this to be my focus.
It was several things. It was a lot more than one because I've actually done this previously. I was fortunate enough when my daughter was first born. I was working on the same horse racing game. It's called Derby Fever. And it would make me some money on the side. And I was working a full-time job, but my daughter was going to be born and we're going to have to pay for babysitting, etc. And I was like, my wife was very understanding because her job, as the usual, was better than mine because she's just smarter than me and is a better employee than me. But she was doing better than I was. So it was very much she's like, why don't I keep working and you stay home with the kids, or with, at the time, my daughter, which I jumped at because I was still making a little money on the side with my horse racing game. And so, yeah, I was able to do it once before where I was able to kind of focus on that while watching children. And turned out my son was born 2 years later. But what flipped it this time is I've been kind of fighting back and forth with trying to get back to this, but I was about ready to do it another time, but it was shortly before, or it was about the time we moved to Nashville from Louisville. And if anyone has lived in both Louisville recently within the last 5 years in Nashville, you know, the home prices in Nashville and the Nashville surrounding area are much more expensive than what you can get in Louisville. And so we went from a home that was actually paid off at the time to a home that literally now I had a mortgage as much as what my previous home was worth. So it was pretty much double the cost of the house. And so now I had to go back to work. I couldn't get by on my own. I really needed that real income. And so over the last 5 years or so, I've been working full time, still trying to do the side hustle. But over the last year or two, we've been really fortunate in that we paid our house off. So we just did that in June.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a great feeling. It really is. That is the good thing about being old, is you can do things like that. But we paid the house off. And then my wife was working a part-time job. She went through several jobs over the last couple of years. She was working a pretty stable job that didn't make her very much money, to a teaching job, which she just she loved the kids, but she hated the job. She liked the kids. She liked the teaching, but there was too much work outside. The pay wasn't good. They expected too much of her outside of work. Anybody who's been a teacher is probably sitting back and going, duh, I know this. Yes. But for her, she's older than I am, and she's 55. So it's just a hard career to pick up and not kind of have built up the calluses for it. And she was like, hey, I feel like I would need to go back to maybe a job that's easier, I guess, that pays more, sadly. But she decided to go back to a job that was similar to a previous job, but she was making more money as a contractor. And then she was offered a full-time position. So within the last year, we paid off the house. She was offered a full-time position, making more money than I was in my full-time job. And I'm going to turn 50 this year. So it's kind of those three things. I was like, if I don't do it now, because we don't have a real home payment or even car payments right now, if I don't do it now, am I ever going to take this chance again? And if not, that's fine, but I need to make that decision. And she's been very supportive of me. So I've been lucky to have someone that's been supportive of giving me an opportunity to pursue my passion. So I just want to say thanks to her.
Oh, I love hearing that about marriages. Like, hey, yeah, they support me. That's that's just gives me all the feels. So you're having this internal monologue of just like, if not now, when? And a lot of people will say, well, I have this excuse or I have this excuse and I can't do it now. Now is not a good time. And it's like, well, when you ask yourself, if not now, when, is it more important that you have a response or just that eventually it'll get done?
I think you have to jump in at some point. I really believe it's difficult. My wife could tell I was waffling a little bit. And I won't say I was waffling because I wanted to do it, but there is a safety that comes to working the full-time job, making a very consistent pay. And it's a comfort. It's a safety. It may not be the funnest thing, but you know, if you're sick next week, you're going to get paid. If something were to happen, unless you work for a real company, you probably have a job, to go back to.
Right.
And when you're working for yourself, you don't have any promises, especially if someone opens their own restaurant or something, for instance. I don't have a restaurant, but I do have an online business where I have people that rely on me. And if I don't do it, nobody will. It just doesn't get done. And before long, I won't have a business. And that happens the same with restaurants. If a restaurant owner were to get sick for 3 months, unless he can pay somebody to go in and open up his shop and do all the work, and he's going to be out of business. But sometimes a lot of companies will at least give you long-term disability and they'll bring you back on if possible. So yeah, as far as the answer, it really, to me, I had to just do it. I remember being on the call with my boss and finally saying, I wasn't even sure that I was going to do it in that call because I was trying to kick it down the road an extra week. I was like, I'm going to wait till the beginning of the year. And it was December 27th. And I was just like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I just did it. I wasn't even sure I was going to do it. But I think there's got to be, you got to pull the trigger, because if you don't, it won't get pulled for you. And it's easy to always, and that's the thing, I'm almost 50 and I don't have an excuse anymore. I guess I've told people, I think if I was still 40, if I was still 45, I probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably try to sock away some more money and be safer when I tried this. But at this moment, you're only living once, and there's no, especially with everything going on with, viruses, et cetera, there's no guarantee of a tomorrow. And if you don't try to do something today about something, you may not have an opportunity. So I got to at least try.
Yeah, I think that's something that we don't give credit to. The act of trying. It's like, I want to do this thing, but if I don't try, it's better than trying and failing.
Yeah. See, and I agree with you 100%.
I feel like people just kind of get stuck in that. Well, I would just rather not. But there's a satisfaction and almost a relief of, even if it doesn't work, at least I gave it all I could.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's one thing I've tried to instill in my kids. And I've said this and I try to live by it. It's easier to have clever and catchy sayings that you don't follow. But I always try to say it's, there's really not a shame in failure. There's a shame in not even trying. Yeah. And if you don't try, you'll never hit a home run if you never come up to the plate. And that's what I've been saying to my friend over the last, I have a friend that I've been sharing a lot of my wanting to leave my current job for over a year now. And not because it was a bad job or anything, but just because I felt like I needed one more chance. And I was just like, I don't want the game to end with me on the bench. And I don't want the game to end with me taking a walk. I want to get up to the plate, and you can't hit a home run if you don't swing the bat. So I at least want to swing the bat. If I strike out, I got up to the plate, I tried, but you're never going to hit the home run or a solid double even if you don't swing. So I just want to try one more time.
And I feel like that uncomfortableness that people feel, like that feeling of just being uncomfortable to even get off the bench. Like, okay, now I'm standing. Okay, now I have to grab a bat. Now I'm walking to the plate. They feel like some of the excuses that I've heard from people is they lack resources, or they lack time, or they lack access. And it's like, you will never gain these things if you are sitting where you are. You actually have to get, when I first started podcasting, I didn't know what I was doing. I just recorded some stuff and put it out there, and some people kind of listened to it. But the more I did it, the more I got to, meet people like yourself, like Kels, like the group that I'm in. I'm in various groups of different podcasters, and really created a community of people who are very supportive, and they help with content, and they're willing to do a guest spot if I need a last minute guest, or for whatever the case may be. But I would have never had any of those resources had I not just went out and tried. And even if I get up to the plate and I don't have a bat, eventually something's going to come up for me to swing. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that people just need to, people have to get past that stage of being uncomfortable to get there.
Yeah. And I think what disappoints me about some of my friends, not that I'm disappointed in any of my friends, but I've had people tell me, like you said, lack of resources, etc. But I've learned how to do almost everything I do on my own, on the side. Like you were saying, you just learn how to podcast by doing it. Yeah. I learned how to do writing games by writing them and trying, and people telling me that this sucked or this is no good. And sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes you just have to stick to your guns because some people are just going to bitch for no reason. But sometimes they're right. And you have to be able to reflect inward and going, I can do that better. I need to look into this. And with the resources we have now as a society, when I first started coding, I'm this old, the internet was really not a thing. There were dial-up bulletin boards and getting access to something called the Usenet. And it's very, but back then to learn how to code computers, it was very much you had to take a class or you had to buy a book. And now you have unlimited access to educational items. You have unlimited access to technological items. You have unlimited access to literally encyclopedias and volumes that would have filled entire libraries for free with the internet. And when I've had a guy that I did some work with, and again, he's a friend of mine. And one of the guys I was talking to last night, he was similar in the fact that he was just saying, I need to quit gaming so much and take some time to learn something. And because I'm like, yeah, you have to. It's not going to come to you. A lot of people will learn skills on their job that maybe they can translate to their own shtick. But if you literally go home and sit on ass after you get off work because you're tired, I get it. Nobody likes to work more than they have to. Right. Sometimes you need to watch a little TV. Sometimes you need to decompress. But the way I always tried to approach it was a lot of times I would come home after work and I would work on my own thing. And then on the weekend, I would work on my own thing. Right. And that's what I've been doing this whole week. This was the last week of my real job, yet I'm coming home because I've got a contractor and paying some money to help me with another thing. And he needs stuff for me to finish before he can do the work. So I'm sitting here working 4 to 5 hours at night, every night. I'm working 12 hours on the weekend after I work a full-time job because no one's going to do that for me. You have to try yourself and you have to learn things on your own. And if people don't take that, it's not saying that, hey, I'm smarter than anybody or I'm better than anybody. The truth is I'll outwork almost anybody. As long as people are willing to work, you'd be surprised. You don't have to be very smart. I'm proof of that. You can work yourself into learning things that you never thought were possible and putting yourself in positions that you would never be in. You have to try to put yourself there. What I say about my game, because it's been good to me, my horse racing game, is I have people that have told me I'm lucky, and they're right, but I made my own luck. I wouldn't have had that luck. There are people that have worked harder than I've ever worked on side passions that never made a dime. And there are a lot of people that have worked a lot less than I have, and they're millionaires and they've retired already. But you have to, most people have to, we're going to fall somewhere in the middle, and that's me. You have to give that shot, but you have to put in the elbow grease. You have to put in the time.
Absolutely. And I think that when people, and I was just talking to someone else about this, when people see like, oh, snap, Mikey, like you're super successful at what you do, I want to be where you are. And it's like, you absolutely can, but let's take a look at what I'm actually doing. When people hear about the amount of time that, aside from you being a husband, you being a father, and you being a homeowner, and also working a full-time job, you also have to take care of your household. You also have to take care of your side business. You also put in work and time and effort to take care of yourself and keeping your other passions going. And a lot of people feel like, just like, your friend said, look, when I get home from work, I don't want to do anything. But if you are not willing to work at what you are passionate about, even if it's taking the time to watch a YouTube video to learn how to do this thing better, or reading a book about ways to improve your hosting skills, ways to set a table, ways to engage with your audience, ways to, do the coding, or, whatever the thing is, and whatever thing that, you, the audience, want to do. If you don't take time to focus in on that, then you're never going to be in a place, well, I feel comfortable enough to actually step out and do this thing. I feel good enough about where I am. You'll never have enough money saved up. There's never going to be a right time. There's never going to be enough of resources, because you're always going to think you need more if you don't pull the trigger. And I think you're absolutely right. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to come and hand you this opportunity if they don't see that you're working toward it. Opportunities really come when you're already walking in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't remember who said this, so I'm not clever enough to make this saying up. But I remember somebody talking about kind of like all of a sudden they were famous after being a nobody for so long, but it felt like all of a sudden everybody wanted what they had, etc. And they acted like they came out of nowhere. And he's like, no, I was an overnight sensation 30 years in the making.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin
Hart said it took 20 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah, and that's true. Is everybody sees the end result. Mm-hmm. Everybody sees that, oh, you have a decent house. Oh, you have a car. Oh, you don't have a car payment. That's amazing. I wish I didn't have that. Or, oh, you're doing something really cool. How did you do that? It's like, it didn't happen by luck. Or if it did happen by luck, I made that luck. I put myself in a position that not many people do through hard work and determination.
Right. And I think that people see, especially with social media, they see the end result and they say, I want that. Mm-hmm. But they're not willing to sacrifice or put in the time. Or if they put in the time is not going in places that are the most advantageous for them. And so I really feel for the dreamers who never put dates next to their dream as they are objectives or goals. It's just, one day, eventually I'll have, and it's like, well, what are you doing? So I have resolved that in February, because February is my birthday month. And so I really want to have this year be different in a way that I cannot explain. And I am not a morning person whatsoever. So one thing different that I'm doing is committing to being up at 6 o'clock every morning for meditation. And that's something that is completely out of my comfort zone, because anything before 10 o'clock stresses me out. I'm just like, why do I don't need to be awake. I promise you I don't need to be up. But because I want something different, I have to do something different. I have to at least try it so that I can refocus and really start looking at maybe 6 o'clock in the morning I'll get clarity. Or maybe I'll just wake up 6 o'clock every morning and nothing will be different. But I feel like for 4 weeks, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, doing something different than I've normally been, trying to be in a different space that I've been, I think that it will definitely help in refocusing what it is that's really important to me and what I want.
Do you like staying up late at night, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, it's more comfortable for me to go to bed late.
Okay.
Like when I'm up late, I'm either I'm watching movies, I'm writing, I'm editing, I'm working as if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, except it's 3 o'clock at night. So I'm up, I'm active, I'm doing things, especially when creativity strikes. But I'm just used to being up. It's kind of like my natural way of sleeping. So I do like to go to bed late. I try not to, because I know I have a regular job to work, so I can't stay up too late. But it's just natural for me to be up. Like 10 o'clock is when I get kind of like my second wind after being awake all day, and then I'm just up until it's time to go to bed.
All right. Move to Australia. I think they're about 12 hours behind or ahead. They're ahead 12 hours. Just move over there. Maybe that'll flip you up.
And that way I'll be like right on time with everybody else. Yeah. Oh, you're a morning person. Not in the States.
That's right.
Not in the States. I don't know. It's just there's a comfort in night. I don't know why. It's just there's a comfort. Are you a morning person or you're a night
Yeah,
owl?
I'm totally a morning person. So
So you're up at 5 o'clock, ready to go.
I'm usually up before 6. I don't set an alarm. I'm usually up by this morning I was up 5:30. Most mornings I'm
You
up around
naturally
5:30,
wake
6.
up before 6 without an alarm.
Yeah. It wasn't
What?
so bad when I was in Louisville. I still haven't adjusted. Louisville's on Eastern. I'm on Central Time here.
Oh, okay.
So I think that I'm still I would prefer Eastern Time, and it is what it is though. But yeah, it's I started at the job I was previously at before I quit it yesterday. I was fortunate enough that they would let me come in at 7.
Okay.
And it took me about 40 minutes to get there. So I had to leave by 6:20. And I'm very much a take a shower in the morning guy if I'm not going to work out in the morning. So I had to get up in time to wolf down a quick breakfast, take a shower, and get out and make the coffee, etc. So yeah, I was naturally getting up before. I haven't used an alarm in years though, so it's just yeah, I'm just like getting up early, get my shit done, get my day done, and get it over with.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't know. I feel like because I used to work the 6:30 to 3:30 shift. That was a very painful shift for me to work. It was just, and it's like, yeah, you get your day over with, but then, and it's almost like, oh, 2 days, because you get like such a, you almost get like another half a day to enjoy.
Yeah.
But I'm so tired from waking up before 5. I mean, before
Okay.
6. I'm just like, I need nap. I need a nap. I need a nap. But I think that doing something different can absolutely help, set you up for success, because I've always and I don't know who said this, because it's been said by multiple people. So I don't know who actually would get this credit. Sometimes they say Einstein, and sometimes they say other people, but they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. So I think that it's a great thing that you have stepped out of your comfort zone of, staying with your job that you said that you've been trying to quit for like a year, and actually pursuing what your passion is, because the question still stands, if not now, when, since nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think actually who said that saying was Linus, when he was trying to explain to Charlie Brown not to kick the football, that Lucy was going to pull the football away from him. And he's like, yeah, don't expect different results. It's just insanity. But Charlie Brown continues to try to kick the football, and Linus
She's going to keep pulling it. Like Lucy is just,
she sucks. She's the worst.
But she's a therapist. I'm so confused.
Yeah, she's not a good one. She only charges 5 cents. You can't. There's no good therapist. I wouldn't trust a therapist to charge 5 cents. Would you?
No, I absolutely would not. I don't want to break the bank, but I want them to actually be worth, like, I mean, because her advice is never even worth the full nickel. I'm like, these kids work so hard to get that nickel.
Yeah.
No, I would want a therapist who has some decent prices, because I'm paying for their degree, their knowledge, their studying.
Yeah, it's like buying low-cost sushi. You're just asking
for
it. You're just asking for it.
Oh.
Sometimes things are worth the money.
Yes, absolutely. I would absolutely want fresh sushi.
Yeah. And mental health advice. If I'm going to get mental health advice, I want to make sure that I don't mind spending good money for that, as long as it's good advice.
Yeah, have you been to therapy?
I have not.
I encourage people to go at least once.
Okay. But I'm not against it. I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
I probably should have. Having this discussion with someone just recently. I tend to have depressive tendencies anyway. My sister was manic depressive. I think sporadically I'll get down on things, but yeah, there's been times I've thought about it. I haven't yet though, so I've got nothing against it. It's just a matter of I totally. It's not one of those things that I look down on at all. I actually applaud people that have the self-discipline and the understanding of themselves well enough to take that step and help themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a tool just like any other. Some tools work better than others. So therapy is absolutely like dating. You sometimes have to go around until you find the right one. Because I've been to some pretty questionable therapists, where I'm just like, after this session, I'm not really feeling good about this, so I'll go to someone else. I've had two. Um, I had one decent therapist, and then I had one really, really, really good therapist, and it took a little bit to find those two, and so I encourage people to just try it, even if it's a venting session, because you don't really know how much you're really holding on to until you start talking, and especially because there are a lot of people in my circle who need it and don't go. And so I'm going to therapy to deal with your stuff.
I'm doing this for all of you.
Yes, you all just don't know. You don't know. But yeah, I am excited to be able to join you in hopefully these next couple of years, should my passions of being a debate coach and or a professional orator, if you will, pay off. And so, I've tried to be consistent in, and that's why I needed this reset for February to refocus in that, so I can start actually hopefully making more money off of that this year than I did last year. So yeah. Well, so hopefully I'll be able to join you. I would absolutely love that and be like, hey, guess what?
If you make any money off of it, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, is making even that first dollar or those first few dollars. With podcasting, it's not hard to make a nickel or a dime, because they have something you can put it on Anchor and make $5 or $6, but it's not real, because anybody can do that. But when you actually have a service or you have a product that you actually don't just get a revenue from for having it, like, podcasting and putting it on Anchor, for instance, which I've had a podcast on, so I'm not crapping on Anchor. I'm just saying it's not difficult. Whereas creating something out of nothing, or creating something with your hands and it being good enough that someone value a money they've earned for it, it's a hurdle, I believe. And it's exciting. With my game, it was very much exciting when I felt like I was making enough money previously where I could do that at least for a while for a living, and really give it a shot. So yeah, it's exciting. So I wish you the best, and I hope however you're doing, you have that extra time this year, and you're able to devote some time and energy, and maybe you get a little lucky here, and maybe you put in a little extra work there, and then suddenly you're making 10 times more money off of it, or 100 times more money, and it'd be awesome. So good luck with it.
Oh, that would be wonderful. You know what? I think that's true though. Knowing that other people could see the value in what you're putting in, so that the resources that they hold valuable, that they work hard to get money, that they'll see it and be like, yeah, I do want to pay you for this. And I think a lot of us are, well, I'll speak for myself. For me, I'm just like, I want to make sure that what I do is of quality, whether I'm giving coaching advice or whether I'm helping people learn how to communicate more effectively, which is what Champions of Discourse is. It's a platform that I'm creating to help people learn how to not just argue better, but learn how to communicate effectively, so that if it does even escalate to an argument, we can figure out where we went wrong to try again. So I want to be able to have that, so that when I do kind of move toward, all right, I think that I'm stable enough in my passion, making enough money in my passion, that I'm able to quit my full-time job. That'll be an exciting day. I'd be like, yes, this is actually like paying more than just a light bill, or more than just a cell phone bill. Like, it can actually pay a mortgage. Like, that's when I'll feel like really, really confident and good about it, to be able to leave. But yeah, I'm excited for it. And it's good talking to people who have worked in their passion where they're like, yeah, I don't work a full-time job anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the funny thing is that when I was doing the horse racing game full time, and I plan on doing it again full time, and doing some other things, I'll be contracting on the side as well as trying to come up with new products. So I'm not going to hyper focus on that, but it is, you have to take it seriously at some point. And as passionate as it is, you're proud of it, but sometimes it's just as hard as a regular job, because you put in that same effort and that passion, and there's no net. And when things break, or when somebody has a problem, for me, if, as unsexy as this sounds, the game part of it's fun, but I have to manage the entire infrastructure on the back end. So if I'm having trouble with the infrastructure, and I'll sometimes get a text at 3 a.m. and it'll be like, Mike, the game's down. And sometimes, depending on the time, I'll wait an hour or two and just say, well, it sucks, but really, I need to get up and take care of it. So sometimes I'll get up at 3 a.m. and trudge and try to fix some infrastructure issue. And it's tough. But that's the thing, is that if you want anything, it shouldn't be easy. I don't think it
should be.
And it's okay, I guess, if it's easy and that's what you really want. But nothing that's worth having usually is easy to accomplish.
I think that's actually very true, because if you want it bad enough, you're going to work hard to get it. And if it's too easy, you're not going to be challenged to want to stay focused on it. And so I absolutely agree. I think that things shouldn't necessarily be, you wanting to quit hard, but they should be challenging enough to keep you engaged. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But thank you so much for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. This was a really great conversation. Where can people find you?
They can find me on just about any place that podcasts are served, good ones and bad ones, because I am available there. And you can find me on the Instagrams and the Tweeters at Wack Brackets, as well as the Facebooks. And I think I'm even on the Twitches and the Snapchats and the Reddits and the TikToks. Believe it or not, nobody wanted the name Wack Brackets. So I've been able to get it on almost every social media platform. So I've been lucky there.
Nice.
Yeah. So if, there's going to be somebody that's going to go grab the name off of some other platform. They're like, haha, I have Wack Brackets now. They're going to be disappointed. I'm not really that popular. But yeah, my game is over at derbyfever.com. Advise people to wait a few months after I actually get to quit my job and focus on it a little more. The game's been dated over the last few years. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at and what I do. And I just want to thank you for having me on. I really had a good time talking with you. I guess it's been about a month ago now. And when you reached out and offered to have me on, I wanted to jump at the opportunity because we had a great conversation, and I checked out a few of the episodes, and it sounds like, I know I get goofy over on Wack Brackets. I think we were talking about this, but it is good to have maybe, I don't know if it was a serious conversation, but an open dialogue and an honest conversation instead of just being goofy all the time. So this has been a real enjoyment for me. So thank you for having me on as a guest.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, y'all make sure to check out Mike, and also make sure that you follow us, Take Up Space Pod. That's Take Up Space POD on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we go live on Thursdays on Facebook and YouTube. So once this episode airs, I'll reach back out to Mike. Hopefully you'll be available. We'll be live on YouTube and Facebook at 8 p.m. Central, and for about an hour. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
See you.